action.
Hey, what's up, guys? If you're new to the podcast, this is the Impact Strength Show, and today I got a cool episode for you. I was talking all about stress eating and snacking. It's packed full of a lot of information, a ton of information. So get your notebook ready, get your pencil ready, but most importantly, get your coffee. Actually, you might not even need any coffee. This one's gonna jack you up. It's gonna get you excited because if you're struggling with any of these things, guys, you're gonna be able to overcome this, and this is gonna be something you're gonna save and go back to. But man, I'm really excited because this is one of the better ones. So check it out and let me know what you think. And you know what? Screw it. I'm done talking, guys. Cue up the music and let's get to the episode. Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Chris here with the Impact Strength Show. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to get under control your stress eating and late night snacking. So this episode came up because, you know, a lot of people are always asking me about this specific question, and I wanted to be able to have a place that I kind of shared some of those things that I believe to be, I guess, the cause of stress eating, but also ways that you can actually kind of get this under control. Because, you know, it's just one of those things, I literally hear it probably more than any other problem out of people. So I wanted to make sure that we had a good episode on there. So number one, I want to talk about like what causes, like why this is happening, because I think it's a big reason that you got to understand, like, why am I stress eating? I think a lot of times why am I snacking? Why do I feel like I can't stop snacking, I should say? Because I think when we get stressed and we eat, we understand why we're stress eating, right? So it's more about like, why am I snacking? Because I feel like sometimes when you're snacking, it's almost like you can't stop snacking, right? I know that's how I am. Like if I go in the kitchen, start snacking something in the cupboard, then I'm like out. Then I come back in and I'm like looking for something else. The best is when you don't actually have anything in there, but you still go in there 100 times looking for a snack, but it's never, you like open up the refrigerator and like hoping something else is gonna be in there. I don't know, maybe that's just me and that's just maybe because of other reasons, but I'll let some of your imaginations wander on that one. But yeah, so snacking, guys, like, let's dive into it. So let's talk about it. Today I got 3 secrets to unveil, if you would, on why I believe people are snacking, or at least from watching many people go through the dieting process. Because if you're on here, you're probably looking to change your composition, right? You're trying to build muscle, you're trying to lose fat. That's pretty much what everyone's trying to do, either one or the other. You're either trying to do both, or you're trying to do one or the other, or maybe you're just trying to like work out and feel like $1 million. Either way, let's dive into it. So the biggest thing is, like, number one, I look at is like it comes down to calorie deficit. So typically, people who are having problems with snacking, you know, they're hungry, right? Like they have a calorie deficit, and maybe they're, you know, not eating enough food, so their body is just kind of signaling to them that they need to eat more food. Another one, so people that maybe you are eating enough food, you feel like, but it's still kind of having a problem with it, then I would say that the next one is probably maybe like nutrient deficiencies, right? So like when we think about like, because I don't want to say like these big fancy words, right? Like what are they? Nutrient deficiencies is kind of like, you know, when you're younger, everyone tells you to eat all your fruits and vegetables. Well, there's a reason why. It's because our body needs a lot of those like high nutrients, you know, to be able to do a lot of the things that the body is supposed to do. You know, our body works at a very complex level underneath of our skin, right? So there's all these things that are happening, biological processes, like, you know, breaking down proteins and making new proteins, and, you know, your muscles. Like when you think about it, when you're like lifting weights even, your brain is signaling to your body to do something. So it needs to have the right stuff in it to be able to do stuff, right? So I think a lot of times that people run into, you know, maybe they're not having a complete diet, and so they're missing a lot of things that their body needs, and they can feel that in their workout. They can feel that in the energy levels throughout the day. They can feel that in their mood. They can feel it in the sleep cycles, like that something is off and that their body is missing something. So That's kind of number two, which is like looking at it from the nutrient deficiency standpoint. And then the last one, secret number three, I kind of combined two because they kind of go hand in hand, but like hormones and stress, right? So that kind of goes more with like the title, like the stress eating part. Yeah, hormones and stress, right? So stress, everyone knows that we have stress hormones. Like if you don't know, well, one of them is cortisol. Cortisol people have heard of a lot, but it is a stress hormone. And typically when we have stress and high cortisol levels, it's going to create cravings, right? Cravings for very specific things. So we'll kind of dive into them as we go into each one. So let's go back to the beginning and start off with the calorie deficit part. So those are the three, right? Calorie deficit's too big, nutrient deficiencies, or hormones and stress. And so we're going to start with the calorie deficit is too big. So let's start with like, how many calories should you actually eat, right? Now, I'm not going to answer this specifically for anyone because everyone is different, and that would be that's not like what you're supposed to do, right? When we do our certifications, it's like, don't give out generalized information. Like, so what I'm doing is generalized info, I should say. Don't give out specific information is what we don't want to do, right? Because everyone is different. So calories, but typically, you need at least to support your activity, right? So when we look at calories, look at two different abbreviations, right? BMR is the first one. So what we call that is your basal metabolic rate. But people have also heard of this as our resting metabolic rate. And what that means is that your body burns a certain amount of calories at rest. Meaning if you woke up and you did nothing, just sat on the couch and watched TV all day long, you would burn a certain amount of calories per day. So that might be 1,300 calories for a smaller individual. It could be 1,900 calories for a larger individual. It could even be like 2,200 calories for someone, depending on the size. It really has to do with how tall you are, how much you weigh, and also how much muscle you have on your body, right? So obviously, if you have more muscle, you burn more calories per day. So that's why one of the main reasons that we do strength training in our gym is because we're trying to help people burn more calories per day, right? We're trying to help them put on healthy, lean muscle that's going to boost their metabolism. So when you hear boost your metabolism, it means your metabolic rate is going up. It means you burn more calories in a day. So when we have our resting metabolic rate, however, that's just what we would do at rest if we did nothing. Now, our total daily energy expenditure, right, or total daily estimated energy expenditure, that is how many calories we burn when we add activity to it. So if you go to Target, if you get in a workout, if you're doing some gardening or going for a walk, all of those extra calories, well, they would be added on to your resting metabolic rate, and that would give you your total daily energy expenditure. So what most people do is when they want to lose weight, specifically if you have access to like an InBody or body composition, that tells you what your, calories are, is they'll set their calories based on their metabolic rate. And that there's a problem there because you're automatically going to be not getting enough calories to support your body, right? This is where most people go wrong from the get-go is, they're burning 1,500 calories per day and they decide they're going to eat 1,300 calories per day. Well, that is not going to be enough energy to support, what you need to do. But if we're adding in the amount of calories that we burn throughout the day, walking and all that stuff, well, maybe that same person who's doing, that has a metabolic rate of 1,500, now all of a sudden has a total daily energy expenditure of, say, 1,850. Well, now we can give them 1,500 calories, and they're still going to be in a 300 calorie deficit and not feel like they're starving, right? Because the further we go to that 500 range, there's a reason why people say, like, how many pounds should you lose a week, right? So there's 3,500 calories in order to burn 1 pound of fat. Now, they say it's safe to lose 1 pound a week, that you won't go into what we call metabolic adaptation, or this is like when your body actually just like starts to slow down, right? You're actually slowing down your metabolism because you're not eating enough food. So your body like adjusts by saying, hey, we're going to move a little bit less now. And that's typically what happens when people go on a crash diet where they decrease their calories, right? They'll lose a lot of weight really, really quick, but in the process, they've kind of wrecked their metabolism, and now they're not burning as many calories per day. So when you start to eat regular food, all of a sudden you start to gain weight very easily. But we can avoid that if we just like look to put a calorie deficit of say 300 to 500 calories per day, and we start a little bit higher, and all of a sudden now we're losing 1 pound a week, but like our body actually can handle that and it can adjust to that. And it doesn't feel like it's starving. It has enough energy to be able to get through the day. So I find that most people do better with a lower deficit. So most people are going to go wrong by having a huge deficit, which means that their body is going to be hungry and it's going to start triggering them to eat more food, right? So this is typically when people will be like, oh, I can't stop snacking, right? It's because your body is actually communicating with you that it needs more calories, right? This is an actual cue. So your hunger cue is coming from the fact that you're not getting enough food because you've made your calorie deficit probably too low. And I've seen people go as low as like 1,000 calorie deficit. That was a very, short example, the 15 to 13. Like I've seen people usually go with a minimum of 1,200 calories per day, and maybe their total daily energy expenditure is somewhere around 1,850. So there's an 850 calorie deficit each day. Well, that's just going to put you into a position in 2 weeks where your body is just like, it's just dying and it needs more food, it needs more nutrients. And so you go into what happens is what we call like the binge, right? It's the restrict and binge cycle, right? So you cut out your calories throughout the week and you're in such a low calorie deficit that your body starts signaling to your brain to go get more calories because it's hungry. So then all weekend, you'll just eat all of those calories back and maybe end some because your body's like, well, we're probably not going to get this food, so we better make sure we eat enough. So you feel like you're uncontrollably eating food, but really what's happening is your body's just trying to get back to maintenance, right? It's trying to get back to what we call homeostasis. So I think that's where a lot of people really will go wrong, and that's really the number one reason why they are snacking, right? Like, it's just we're hungry. Like, if your body's telling you that you want food, it's because you're usually hungry or you're not getting what you need, which leads us to the second one, secret number 2, which is our nutrient deficiencies. Isn't bad. We're not saying that snacking is bad, but when we are snacking, we want to make sure that we're giving our body the right foods, right? That a lot of times when we want to snack, if our environment around us is like Doritos and Goldfish and cookies, then we're probably going to grab those things versus like something like a chicken salad or a protein shake or, tuna salad or like, hard-boiled eggs or, lean, like jerky or like even just any kind of snack. Like there's so many different options out there, even like nut butter on, on fruit, nut butter on apples, nut butter on celery, nut butter on even like a sprouted bread or a bagel. Like there's nothing wrong with snacking, right? It's just understanding that like your body is communicating with you, I think is one of the biggest things that we're trying to stress here. Now, on the secret number 2 is the nutrient deficiencies side of things. So when we look at this, like common fad diets have one thing in common, right? Like if you look at keto, if you look at paleo, if you look at the South Beach, if you look at the low carb, like they all really do, they're really good at taking away one of like a macronutrient or a certain type of food, right? Even with intermittent fasting, really what they're doing is they're taking away the time in which you can eat food, which then on its own creates what kind of happens as a calorie deficit, right? There's good and bad things about intermittent fasting. That's for a whole nother video on itself. But I want you to understand that like a diet in itself is not sustainable because a diet only works by removing a food group or a macronutrient group. And macronutrients means like protein, carbs, and fats. So like if you're doing keto, you're going to only eat protein and fat, and you're going to remove carbs, right? If you're doing a low-carb diet, well, you're going to eat, well, there you go. Keto is a low-carb diet, right? If you're eating a high-carb diet, right, you're going to eat protein, higher carbs, so more breads, grains, pastas, fruits, vegetables, but maybe you're going to eat a lower fat, right? And the thing is all of these diets will work because these are tactics that we can use, right, in the overall arching plan. So if I were to work with a client, in my nutrition coaching program, there are times that they may eat a higher fat diet. There might be other times where we're going to have a lower fat diet, right? And the reason why we would do that is because we're just looking at it as, number one, what's their lifestyle like? What do they enjoy more? Number two, what lever can I pull to get them results, right? Because the body needs constant change in order to not adapt, right? So if I'm doing, maybe we're just working on portions for a whole month and they get that down. And then I'm like, okay, great. Well, we're going to eat higher carbs and lower fat and they get that down. And the next month we're like, all right, cool. We're going to introduce more fat and then less carbs, right? And they're like, okay, cool. And then it's next month we're going to do carb cycling. So on workout days, you're going to eat more carbs. On non-workout days, you're going to eat more fat, right? So those are just tactics, right? I'm rambling them off and saying them fast. Don't worry about writing them down because, at the end of the day, they don't matter, right? That's what we're trying to stress. But what happens when we do this, guys, is that we create these nutrient deficiencies, right? So if we're restricting, say, carbohydrates and we're not eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, well, then we're not going to be getting in essential vitamins and minerals that would come with those fruits and vegetables, right? So if we're not getting enough, if we're on a high carb and low fat diet, well, then we might be missing out on the important saturated, monosaturated fat. There's different fats, right? And we need them in order for our body to function. But if we're cutting them out, well, then that might be the thing that we're missing for our body to maybe lose fat, right? I always tell my clients, in order to lose fat, you got to eat fat, right? That's healthy fats, right? Avocados, avocado oil, nuts, right? Nut butters, right? Even butter. There's animal fats. This is sometimes a lot of people will say, hey, I'm not eating red meat. And a lot of times, well, you're going to miss out on a lot of the good nutrients that are in the red meat. So I always tell people that you either need to get it in with your diet or you need to supplement it, but you need to make sure that you're getting it, because your body needs to have it. So when we think about nutrient deficiencies, some of the common ones, we can talk about iodine, specifically in athletes. If we go and look at athletes, iodine, vitamin D, zinc, vitamin E, calcium. These are typical deficiencies that we see in our athletes. Our students and, people in I would say corporate world, maybe even, we might see deficiencies in zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, omega-3s, protein, right? Not getting enough protein. No one's getting enough protein. I'll tell you that. When we look at everyone, that's where we start. You guys want to know what the first 30 days of working with me with nutrition coaching is like? We're going to make sure that you, number one, eat food, and then number two, that the food has protein, right? That's it. I get tired. I'm not can we pause for a second on this deficiency and talk about guys, it drives me nuts when I'm driving and I see someone snacking on a freaking Chick-fil-A McSandwich, or if I pull up and I drop off, I'm doing drop off in the morning and I see people at the daycare and they're their car is opening up. They got Chick-fil-A bags and McDonald's bags all in the car. And I'm not trying to say this to shame anyone, but man, at the minimum, we gotta change those habits that we're at least eating at home. You can do a lot of good for yourself by not eating a lot of the fast food and takeout. Just switch into making it at home will literally save you. We gotta find time, guys. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. We got to find that time. And that's one of the most simple strategies that we can do. And I'm picking because man, when we're eating that stuff, it's filling us up full of calories and it's not very nutrient dense, right? So the food that we eat from fast food a lot of times doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it, but it has a ton of calories. And like this is where, so literally just by switching to eating food that you make, you can increase the amount of nutrients that you get and you'll decrease the amount of calories that you consume. Like that one small change. All right, but moving on. People on popular diets. So that is like what happens when you do on like the paleo and, fasting and intermittent, beach diet, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I don't know what they're called. There's like I don't know, if I start saying them, I could, I don't want no one coming after me, so I'm not even going to say the name of them, right, Alyssa? So we'll go. But people on popular diets, right, they're going to suffer from like B7. Honestly, I'd say a lot more than just B7, but a lot of different B vitamin complexes, vitamin D, vitamin E, chromium, yeah, I said chromium, for the cronies, for all the cronies out there, if you're not getting chromium. Iodine, another big one, right? And then I don't even know how to pronounce this one, molybdenum. I don't know how to say it, but you probably ain't got it, right? Molybdenum. Somebody's probably gonna listen to this and really come at me and clown me, but come at me, bro. It's all right. All right, so let's talk about this because like a few ones that came up, like iodine, really important. Like if your goal is like fat loss and you don't have like enough iodine, right? Iodine is going to help you with your thyroid. So the thyroid is going to help with fat loss, right? How many people come to me and say, hey, I got thyroid problems, so I can't lose weight, right? A lot of times it might just be because you have a thyroid, you're having a thyroid issue because you have a iodine deficiency, right? So that, organ's not working properly, so you're not burning fat, right? So how do you get more iodine? Well, they make iodized salt, right? Like literally like the table salt. So literally me and my wife Gina, we had the problem where we were like too healthy, right? We were just using like Himalayan sea salt and, regular sea salt, but that's not fortified with iodine. So we weren't getting any iodine and it started showing up and that, we were having iodine deficiency, right? Magnesium, right? Magnesium is a big one, right? Like I like using magnesium in different ways. Like, so I'll even do like sea salt bath and it has like magnesium in there. It's like really good too because it's a smooth muscle relaxer. So it also helps with decreasing stress, right? But in our sleep multiplier, it has magnesium in there. Like, so our sleep multiplier has iodine and magnesium, which is why I love Prestige Labs because a lot of the products that we have address a lot of these nutrient deficiencies because this is like when people first come in, they do a challenge with us, they have a lot of nutrient deficiency. So when they use our products from Prestige Labs, they're going to plug up a lot of these nutrient deficiencies and allow their body to actually start doing what it's supposed to do very effectively. So a lot of our clients will start getting really good results in their first 6 weeks, in their first 12 weeks, mainly because we just fixed their nutrient deficiencies and like their body started doing what it was supposed to be doing, right? A lot of people that come and say, hey, my thyroid's like, yeah, that's a problem. Like, hey, like you could be pre-diabetic, right? You could have too much blood sugar in your blood and like now that's not working properly, right? So like not getting a right amount of food or getting too much of the certain types of food, it throws off how our body works, right? And we want to make sure that we're getting the right stuff, number one, but we're taking care of our body. So the nutrient deficiencies is a big one. Like I said, like there's tons, like a whole B vitamins. You can just pretty much write down every B vitamin. Iron is a huge one. Zinc, omega-3s. Like, so when we go down the list, the big ones that we can really focus on and how I kind of help my clients when it comes to like actually addressing these, right? So the first 12 weeks of anyone's journey, I find that the biggest movers that we're able to really focus in on, and the reason why I spread it out over 12 weeks is because like habits take a lot of time to actually form. So sometimes giving people too much, they don't have the actual brain energy left with everything that's going on in life to implement a lot. So like small steps, like, so we find that they're dehydrated, number one, so they have dehydration issues. They have vitamin deficiencies, right, is number two. So not getting enough vitamins and minerals. They have the protein deficiency, so they're not eating enough protein to support their body. Specifically, if you're working out, like you need to get in the amount of protein that your lean body mass, right? You need to match your lean body mass to at least maintain muscle mass. If you want to actually build muscle mass, well, you need to be in a surplus of your protein. So if you had 115 pounds of lean body mass, you would need to eat 125 grams of protein in order to be in what we would call a surplus. So if your body is in what we call a negative, right, or a deficit, so if you have 115 pounds of lean body mass, but say you're consuming 65 grams of protein, which is around the average that we typically would see, well, your body is actually breaking down your muscle in your body to get that protein that you're not getting. So our body will actually take from our body to reproduce what it needs. So if we don't give it what it needs, it actually takes from our body. And this is why people might this is why if you ever got sick, you get sick and you lose weight, you didn't lose body fat, right? You lost muscle really quick because your body needed the extra amino acids. So it broke down muscle in order to get those amino acids, right? So at the highest level, for any of you guys that nerd out on this kind of stuff, some of you guys are like, what the hell is an amino acid? I'm kidding, right? But if we don't give our body what it needs, it will take what it needs, right? Or it will start to crave foods. But in the sense of if you need, say, vitamin C, you may crave carbs, right? And your body may be craving carbs. And maybe if you're not getting enough calories, you may crave something that's like sweets. So cakes, cupcakes. Why? Because or ice cream even, because that gives you a big hit of both carbs and fat. So your body remembers that it's going to get the hit of sugar for your brain because your stress, right? We'll talk about that in number 3, but it's going to give you the big hit of sugar, but it's also going to give you the big hit of calories because of the fat. This is why baked goods, crackers, peanut butter crackers, all that stuff that we like to really snack on really can do some damage because it's it packs a big punch because it has the carbs, but it also has the fat with it, right? And then, so this leads us to number 3 because our bodies sometimes will actually trigger I want this type of food, right? There's some times where my body's man, I want a big fat ribeye or a juicy burger, right? And that's my body communicating with my brain, my brain communicating with my body saying, hey, we probably need to get some healthy fats in our body, right? Because my brain remembers oh, when I eat this, this actually helps, right? So it might be a steak and I'm going to feel satisfied at the end, right? It might be a burger, I'm going to feel satisfied. It may be that I am stressed out and I'm oh, I'm going to eat a bunch of what do I call them? The little clementines, those little mini oranges, right? The little clementines. I didn't realize this before. It was something I had learned going through one of my nutrition certifications with the NCI. But one of the things, when you have high levels of cortisol, you actually crave more carbohydrates because carbohydrates will help lower your cortisol levels, right? So once I learned that, it made so much sense why I would get stressed out and eat I would eat 8 of those things and then I would go do something. And I would feel great afterwards and I didn't know why. But it was because of the vitamin C's. It was because the high nutrient density of the clementines and the fact that I was stressed out, right? And my body probably needed more carbs because I wasn't eating enough carbs in my diet. So my body needed to get it, right? So these are things that we want to look at. So if you're dealing with a lot of stress, right? If you have high stress, high levels of stress, maybe you got to look at implementing more carbohydrates into your diet, more fruits specifically, and you'll notice that you might feel better, right? Because this goes back to popular dieting. You might literally, I've seen people who when we talk about body types, right? There's 3 different SOMO types, if you would. There's your ectomorph, which is more of your very thin framed, straight up and down type figure, right? Then you have your mesomorph, which is more of a V-shaped, stronger, this is your typical athlete, typical. You see this a lot in football, a skilled athlete, like a running back or a linebacker, they're going to be your mesomorphs. Then you have your endomorphs, which is a large amount of our population, which has, more curvier shaped bodies. So you have your ectomorph, which is straight. You have your mesomorph, which is a V. And you have your endomorph, which is more curvy, right? And the endomorph, right, is different than the ectomorph, right? They require different diets. Their thyroid is set different. So the ectomorph is going to need and require much more carbohydrates for their body type right? Because like their engine is revving all the time. They can't sit still. Like I talk very fast because I'm half ectomorph, half mesomorph, baby, right? So like if I'm not eating enough, I actually will get really, really skinny, right? That is a good example. Like you will, if you're an ectomorph, you probably experience this, like it's hard for you to put muscle mass on, and you just seem to not be able to fill up on a diet, and you're always moving, right? Your mesomorph, well, they like are typically people hate them because they can like lose fat, and gain muscle really, really quick and very easily, like just making a few changes in the diet, and like boom, all of a sudden they get results. Like no one really likes them, right? And then everyone, like I said, most of the people will fit into the last one, which is the endomorph, but they actually do better with a higher fat diet and a little bit lower carbs. So like this might explain why you might have a friend that did like keto or like a higher fat diet and they had success, and then like you tried to do it and then like wrecked your body, right? Because like your body doesn't thrive with more fat in it, right? So what happens is if you do a diet because you're like, oh, I saw this on the internet and so got results, so I'm going to give it a shot, but it's not the right diet for your body type, well, then you're going to start to experience some of these problems where you're going to start to crave food, or like your body is not going to work the right way. You're not going to feel energized, right? So if you're an ectomorph on a high-fat diet, you're probably just craving a lot of carbs, right? And if you're an endomorph on a low-fat diet, well, yeah, you might need to get that steak or that burger or have some avocado. Like your body might be talking to you to add some healthier olive oils into your food, or even like the mayo with like the mayonnaise with the olive oil mix. I know they have like I don't like the regular one as much. I think the macros on the olive oil mayo is a lot better for you if you're wondering, if you're out there, if you like your tuna and chicken salad or your egg salad, right? Get that one. There you go. So free tip for you. Always dropping the free tips, right? And then so we talked about, so water deficiency, vitamin deficiency, protein is a big one, right? So if you're not eating enough protein in your diet, fats, right? If you're not getting enough fats, those are the big four, right? So literally if you just focused on like increasing healthy fats, if you focused on eating more protein, drinking more water and eating more fruits and vegetables, taking a multivitamin, right? Taking a supplement, omega-3 supplement with EPA, DHA in it, right? These things are going to address nutrient deficiencies, and for most people, it's going to help them start losing weight right away. And then, once you address your deficiencies, you can address your calories, right? A lot of people just need to eat more food, right? And you start eating more food, eating more nutrients, your body's going to start losing weight right away. And then you can start worrying about, doing calorie deficits. But just hope this helps. I hope this is kind of explaining how, a lot of these things happen. Number one, how like stress plays a role in stress eating, right? Obviously, like stress hormones are going to signal, and then you got to make those stress hormones go down. So you need, carbohydrates, right? If you're doing too big of a calorie deficit, your body's probably hungry. You probably want more calories. You want more food. I know that there's been times that I've had like both, right? I've skipped. Alyssa's always like making fun of me because we'll be in here, we'll work all day, and like I literally like just won't eat anything, and it'll be like, she'll be like, you're the worst nutrition coach ever. And I'm like, yes, I know. And then I'll be like, I'm intermittent fasting. And it's like, I'm totally full of shit. I'm not intermittent fasting. But like, yeah, I have bad habits sometimes too. And like, I think that's really what this is all about, right? It's really about like getting control of your habits. But a lot of people feel, you don't need to feel bad about yourself if you're not doing stuff all the way right, There is no real right way to do it. There's no wrong way. There's no right way. There's only the way that works for you. But I find that a lot of times people are just doing things to do them, or they heard it from somewhere. So I'm hoping that today's episode kind of gave you a little bit of help. Maybe you're that person that's not eating enough calories and you need to eat more calories, and all of a sudden you won't be, feeling like you need to snack all the time. Maybe you're that person that's like eating calories, but like you're not eating enough of, carbs because you heard carbs will make you fat, right? Like, that's common, right? It's not true, right? It's not true at all, because when we look at calories, we go 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories, 1 gram of carbs equals 4 calories, 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. So in reality, fat that we consume is making up majority of the calories, and that's usually the one that people aren't noticing, because a little bit of fat adds up really, really quick. So carbs aren't making anyone fat, right? Carbs are actually going to probably be the thing that helps a lot of you guys drop, say, 5 to 10 pounds, because maybe you weren't eating carbs and now you might mix in a little bit of rice, mix in some pasta here and there, or some potatoes or some beans or some lentils, right? Maybe you throw in a little dairy because you were cutting it out, right? Maybe if you were cutting it out and you're trying to throw it in, probably not going to work. You probably lost those enzymes, and it's probably going to give you a little rumbly in your tumbly. But so maybe don't add dairy back in. I don't want you guys hitting up the podcast like, Chris, I took your advice. I started adding in dairy, but now I can't get off the toilet. Like, I don't want that happening to you. And yeah, if you are, guys, like, so that's another one. If you are eating not a lot of protein, don't go from eating 60 grams of protein today to like trying to do 125 grams. You got to like add it in small point, like 10 to 20 grams over, 2 to 4 week period, to give your body and your gut a chance to actually like adjust to the new protein levels. But the cool thing is just by adding a little bit of protein, you're going to start seeing that you'll get some results. Like your body starts, it doesn't mean like, oh, if you got to get to here, 125, you won't start seeing any results until you get there. Just by going from like, say, 60 grams of protein per day to 75 grams of protein a day, you will start seeing some results, right? And that's the cool thing, that you don't have to have all of these things working for you. You just got to start, right? So like, drink some water today, right? Everyone always goes, I'm going to start tomorrow. No, go get some water today, right? Drink some water. And then all of a sudden, you're already ahead of the game, right? Like, eat a piece of fruit today. Like put some vegetables on your plate or get a salad, right? Like make a smoothie. It doesn't have to be complicated, guys. Like, but the reality is like I said it earlier, but the whole like fast food stuff, man, like guys, like it does drive me crazy because like fast food is literally killing people. Like it's literally killing people. Like the food that's out there, guys, like, get a little better quality, make your own food. Like, hey, I'm not a big, like, don't get me wrong. I eat Chick-fil-A every once in a while. I'll get me a little chicken sandwich. I do pizza almost every single week, right? Like, you can eat processed food, but, like, try to get 80% of your food that you eat coming from, like, whole grain foods, whole minimally processed foods that you're preparing for yourself, and then save the 20% for Halloween candy. No kidding. I can't stop eating it right now. But yeah, so just, give yourself some fun. You can go out, have some, cheese fries with your friends every once in a while. It's not going to kill you, right? That we live life. But like, if you're eating breakfast, if your breakfast is like hitting up the fast food Dunkin' Donuts drive-through every single morning, like that's a habit that we can change, and you're going to like live a lot longer because of it. All right, guys. So I hope you love this podcast. If you do, man, give it a thumbs up. Share it with some people, guys. Get the word out, because if people know about the Strength Show, they're going to come. They're going to get stronger. Remember, like we said in the comeback episode, it ain't about just getting stronger in the weight room, guys. It's about getting stronger mentally. It's about building stronger habits. It's about being a stronger person. So if you're listening to the Strength Show, it's because you want to get stronger. And I am happy to have you guys here, and I appreciate you for giving me your time and your attention. And if you love this, guys, shoot me a message. Let me know. Hit me up on Instagram. And I'd love to shoot a podcast on something you want to hear in the future. Love you. Appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next episode.